The Compas are back, and they have a very special guest this week. As you know, the AFC West arms race has commenced, and everyone's been loading up on players. It wasn't just your boy, your lad, Dan and Dago squad making moves, unfortunately. But just to give you a quick list, the Chargers got Khalil Mack. What? A little J.C. Jackson. What? And the Broncos got Russell Wilson, Randy Gregory. The Chiefs got Juju, Tic Tac, and Schuster, and everybody else. That's great. And those freaking Raiders came out of nowhere to get Chandler Jones and Davante Adams. That's all right. They got Derek Carr throwing the ball. He's going to keep us in the game. Much obliged. How you doing? Keep it moving. So that brings us back to our guest, Paul Gutierrez, Raiders beat reporter for ESPN, will join the Compas to break down the Davante Adams trade, and he'll let us know where the Raiders stand in this loaded AFC West. You know Paul will bring the heat and drop his knowledge. And you know, as always, Hilberto will do what Hilberto does and bring out his shovel and get ready to bury somebody. But first, as usual, a reminder to watch and subscribe to Compas on the Beat on YouTube and give us a listen on Spotify, Apple, and Google Podcasts. And of course, follow us on Instagram at Compas on the Beat. And last but certainly not least, rest in peace to the great John Clayton, the GOAT NFL insider. We miss you, Professor. Now, it's time for the best damn podcast in the universe. All the way from South Bend, Indiana. Play the music, Nando! Welcome to Compas on the Beat. I am Fernando Ramirez, Notre Dame football beat writer for the South Bend Tribune. With me, as always, my co-host, my tag team partner, Gilbert Manzano, Chargers beat reporter for the OC Register and LA Daily News. What's up, bro?
Fernando, I think it's still for you. It's hard to get used to that new intro, but I like the "What's up, bro?" It's still on point. You got to work on the intro, so it's throwing you off a little bit.
It is.
But I'm doing well. It's March Madness time. I'll say this: I used to really love March Madness basketball. I still do. I get reminders, but now that I'm an NFL reporter, it's hard to focus on the NCAA tournament and then also the NFL free agency, which is a frenzy, as you know. So this past week I tried to combine both worlds, and it's tough. As we're gonna get into, there was a lot going on.
You're gonna laugh because I'm jumping all the way to November. I know it's barely March, but Dan and Dago was asking me today. He's like, "Dude, what's gonna happen when it's like the World Cup and NFL? Like the NFL starting to get into that playoff mode, and it's like the last stretch." He's like, "I don't know how everything's gonna get divvied up and everything." And I was like, "Well, for Compas, you're not gonna have to worry because I know Gilbert ain't gonna want to cover a second of that." But maybe our good friend Gilbert, our good friend Tom Allnut will be at might be at the World Cup. I don't know if you remember him. I talked to him last year about what was going on with Real Madrid, with Barcelona, with Atletico.
This is the World Cup in Qatar.
Yep. So he might be at the World Cup. So I told him, I'm like, "Hey, bud," like, because he reached out to me and congratulated me on the new job. And I asked him, "Are you going to be in Qatar?" He's like, "I don't know yet. Might." I'm like, "Well, if you are, I'd love to get you on the pod." He's like, "Are you already trying to get me in March?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'm trying to reserve you. You're going to be all over the place. I know how it's going to be if you go down there." Huh?
It's a year from now.
No, it's not. It's in this November.
Oh, this November. Oh, they changed the whole. I thought I'm thinking like in the summer.
It's 2022.
Oh, because it's hot.
It's hot. Yeah. So in the summer, it can get up to 120 degrees.
Yeesh. Okay.
So in the winter, I guess it'll be down in like near like the 80s.
That's what you meant by the chaos of college football, NFL football. Okay.
Yeah. No.
What are you talking about? It's in the summertime.
No, it's gonna be chaos with everything going on. Especially because, I'm going to have to get up early, bro, to watch some of these games. I know you're going to get up early to watch a lot of these games because it's going to be at 3 a.m, 4 a.m. Like, hey, I know you're going to get up early to watch some of these.
Hey, I'm always giving soccer. I don't even know how we started talking about soccer, Fernando. That was your creative way to get me to talk about it on the show because we never really talk about soccer. So kudos to you. But I don't care for club soccer, but I do enjoy the World Cup because it's nations, it's pride. I could root for America and Mexico. I could say we because I was, I have citizenship to both countries, so I have two teams. Is that a bad thing to say in soccer? You have two teams? Whatever.
I mean,
I root for both.
I guess. I mean, you can root for different. Like, I remember in the World Cup, like, I'll root for Mexico because I think the U.S. has so much already. I'm like, let's give Mexico a little bit more love.
Exactly. That's the way. That's
So
the way I think about it too. They
yeah, so
have
that's why like,
football, basketball.
and I'm telling you, the U.S. is catching up. Like the U.S., they're close. They're probably one more generation away from like this new generation of soccer that they have is going to be very good. But honestly, I feel like I always go for Mexico, but then as soon as Mexico gets kicked out in the round of 16, I'm like, all right, who are the strong ones? I still think that France is going to be very strong.
Okay,
Kylian
Fernando.
Mbappe
This
will
is
be
too
wearing
much
that
soccer. I
beautiful
gotta
Real
cut you
Madrid
out.
jersey this offseason.
This is too
So
much
he'll be
soccer,
going to the
Fernando.
World Cup.
Come on.
Hey, we lasted a good 5 to 6 minutes
You
speaking
tricked
soccer.
me. We need
I
the Dan
want
and
to I
Dago
want to give you
buzzer. That's
credit.
enough.
I want to give you credit, my friend. You did a couple of minutes of soccer. So
Whatever.
hey,
Let's get to
slowly
some
but surely.
news.
I know that spring is coming up and then it's the summer, but we got that snowball effect, Gilbert. Slowly but surely, that snowball's going to get a little bit bigger, and who knows? Maybe you'll be talking the beautiful game come November when it's World Cup time.
I will try my best, but that is football season, as you
All
mentioned.
right. Well, yeah, and that's going to be the craziness about it. Gilbert, do you feel like I think it was Albert Breer from Sports Illustrated that put it out there. Do you feel like every matchup in the AFC West now should be a primetime game?
Yeah, it's not a bad idea, but I doubt they're gonna do that because there's so many like the NFL loves the NFC East, the Cowboys, the Eagles, and the Giants. Like they got a bunch of games over there
Like how
already.
now? Like there's like I
You
was
gotta
looking
think
at it
about it.
today with all the moves that everybody's made in the AFC. I'm like, how the hell could you love the NFC except for the Green Bay Packers? Because for some reason I feel like everybody wants to see the Green Bay Packers get destroyed just because of all the stuff with Aaron Rodgers and everything, which that's another human being. How could you want that to happen to another human being? But whatever. And then Tom Brady. Everybody wants to see Tom Brady get
There you go.
destroyed
That's another one.
because he's 44 years old. He decided to retire for it's funny. He did 40 days like Jesus Christ did during Lent. He did 40 days, came out and said, I ain't retiring. I'm coming back out. Now, I wonder if it was
remember that
like,
episode you couldn't remember the word Lent? That was
yeah, I
funny,
know.
right?
My mom was like so mad. I wonder if he sat there on the couch because there's a story. You're going to, real quick. So, Ric Flair, when he was in WWE, I saw
Didn't you tell this story last year?
documentary.
I mean, last
Huh?
week? I feel like you told this story last
No,
week.
I know. No, I didn't. So Ric Flair said that that he would wrestle all the time. He was never with his family. And Charlotte Flair even confirmed this story. He said that one day Vince told him, dude, take December off, take the holidays off, go home, like go relax with your family. And that he was like, Charlotte was like 8 or 9 years old. He's like, all right, cool. Like, yeah, I'll go do that. He went into his house. He sat down. He heard Charlotte screaming. Some kids had friends over. They were all screaming. They were breaking stuff in the house. He heard his wife screaming, Rick, help, this, that. And he took one look and said, ugh. And he packed his bag and went back on the road with WWE because he just couldn't stand it. I wonder if Tom sat at home and he's like, I don't know about this. And then he goes and sees the GOAT, Cristiano Ronaldo, light up.
Yeah, you definitely mentioned that last week. No more soccer. No more soccer.
And he said, you know what? I want to be like Cristiano Ronaldo. I want to get back on that field and I want to dominate and go win an 8th Super Bowl ring.
All right, let's bring you back.
What do you think is more realistic, the Cristiano Ronaldo thing or the Ric Flair thing?
Actually, I believe both. Definitely the Ric Flair story is true. I can see Tom Brady. Like there's like a picture. You're roping me in. You're actually succeeding today. There's a picture. He was at the game watching soccer. And he looked really like out of place. He felt like, why am I here as a spectator? So, anyways, Fernando, back to your question.
And he had really good seats too.
Yeah, but back to your question to the rating.
And he got to meet Cristiano Ronaldo after the game too.
Anyways, yes, Aaron Rodgers is going to take a lot of games. The Cowboys are going to do it. The Buccaneers are going to do it. There's also Joe Burrow's doing well, but it is the Bengals. Lamar Jackson, if healthy,
why should I care about and that's the problem is that I've always felt like I understand all this stuff. Like I feel like if the Cowboys were 4-12, they would still get 5.
Yeah, you got to understand they are really popular team. It's all about the ratings for now.
And I understand that, but I mean, I think we're moving into a new generation where it's like I feel like fans would now rather see good games rather than watch the day. Because I remember for the longest they would have the Cowboys and the Giants start off on Sunday Night Football, and I always thought that game was so boring. I wouldn't even watch it because I thought it's going to be a boring game. Dallas is going to run the football, and they're basically Eli Manning's going to turn it over. Dak will have a touchdown or two, and that's it. There you go. That I wrote my story before the game even started, and I'm like why should I care?
A lot of people in New York, the biggest metropolitan area in the world, and people love the Cowboys. There you go, Fernando.
And the
But
Giants.
you know, I'll say this: the Broncos are really beloved. Like we found that out last year. They kept putting them on primetime when they stunk, and then somebody I shouldn't maybe give him a shout out, but he knows who he is. The Broncos are beloved in Montana, Idaho, all these Wyoming, all these states that have no football. So,
Well,
you
that's
know,
true.
and they're and you know the Raiders are a national brand. The Chargers have Justin Herbert, Khalil Mack. So maybe you're right. We're kind of maybe I'm getting maybe I'm kind of like losing that kind of point of view, but I really feel like they're gonna spread it out like they always do.
Well, I mean, I just feel like we're like if you were on a boat right now, like it'd be leaning this way with all the moves that the AFC have made. The NFC only has two, like legit two quarterbacks that even matter. Because I mean, Dak's okay, but he just lost his number one. I've seen the stats with Dak not having Amari Cooper, and I'm like, dude, how is he gonna survive? Like, I know CD is good, but CD, I feel like, and I'm not trying to take a shot or anything, but I feel like CD, I'm like, and people are gonna be like, oh, here he goes again. On the charge would be good because he'd have Keenan Allen, he'd have Mike, and they can take away everything, and CD can just be the guy that runs and speeds around and does whatever he wants. Or like on the Broncos too, like he could do good things on there and be that kind of speed demon that the Broncos need. But I just don't see anywhere else in the NFC where I'm kind of like, oh wow, like yeah, why not? Like let's watch like somebody else from the NFC play. I mean the other, I mean unless because with everything going on right now, I wonder if Baker Mayfield could be headed to Seattle. That's the only other team that I see
Yeah,
viable unless the Giants want to get him or
I
I just
wouldn't discount the Cardinals yet. The Cardinals might do something.
oh, you know what?
Kyler
And
Murray
and the Rams. Okay,
and the
you know what?
Rams,
Yeah.
obviously the
I'm
Super Bowl
forgetting those
champions.
two teams. Okay. Yeah, no, okay, so four teams. Okay, that's not bad.
Okay.
Now you talk some sense into me, but
No, but you're right. The glamour division where the stars are, where it's loaded, like you mentioned, imbalance, the AFC West, man. I couldn't believe the week that we had this podcast a week ago, and it was just starting, right? The free
yeah.
agency frenzy. We knew about Khalil Mack and maybe J.C. Jackson. I
We know
forget.
we knew about all those guys. Well, we didn't know. We had just recorded, I think, and then the Davante Adams we had just posted and Davante Adams comes out
Yeah, and we
that
were all
next day.
thinking like, oh, everybody's doing moves, but the Raiders, and then the Raiders woke up. So man, we could get into it for now because I don't know, man. If you ask me today, who's the best team in the division,
Whoa, let's not get there yet.
well, what's the name of the segment? AFC West Free Agency Recap. I'm just saying,
Yeah.
I don't know just yet, but I feel like the Raiders really got themselves on notice. Davante Adams, Chandler Jones. I like what the Broncos did. DJ Jones, Gregory, Brandon Gregory, Russell Wilson, and then the Chiefs. Man, like I know the Chiefs don't need to do that much, but then they got Juju Smith-Schuster because they love offense. And then I feel like with their defense, it's as long as you have Chandler Jones and Frank Clark, they're fine. I don't know what you're doing. Oh, you're dancing.
Yeah.
Yes, that's a very
Who do you think
strong.
is going to be a better duo, Patrick Mahomes and Juju Smith-Schuster, or Jackson Mahomes and TikTok star Juju Smith-Schuster?
That is tough. I don't know. Juju's kind of been, on the decline on the field, so maybe I'll go with
Like, do you think
Jackson.
Jackson would kind of keep it down a little bit, especially with all the antics from last season? And first thing he tweets out, "We got to connect. We're going to do some good stuff." Like,
I don't care. I want to see it. Just to see
no,
what happens.
I
I
don't.
do.
I don't. Like, it's gonna be bad. Like,
That's why I want to see it.
I wonder if Patrick has thought about divorcing his brother. Like, just be like, hey, dude, like, you can't, the Mahomes name, like, dad kind of created it. I perfected it. I mean, I think you're going to have to let it go and use mom's. Actually, she was a good athlete too. I think I heard Patrick's mom. So, like, is he the only one that's not athletic? Like, Jackson, like, he
Leave
doesn't do
Jackson
anything?
Mahomes alone, Fernando. What else
No,
you got?
he's terrible. I the other move that I didn't like, that Randy Gregory move, for some reason, I don't like it. Like, I thought he got paid a lot of money. I would have rather have thrown that money to Chandler Jones or to Von Miller.
By the way, Fernando, that reminds me, because you actually told me about your feelings about Randy Gregory
Oh,
a week ago.
yeah, a week ago. Yeah.
You saw the tweet. Your opinions doesn't pay his bills. So take that, Fernando.
Oh, I saw that. Yeah, that was funny.
He was talking to you.
You think he was talking to me?
Yes, he
You
heard.
listened to Compas?
Yeah, he's like
Randy Gregory, if you're listening to Compas on the Beat, number one, we appreciate you. Number two, if you want to jump on the show and talk shit to me, like go ahead.
you got to send to that. This is a kid show.
Kid show. Sorry, kid show. Appreciate it. Sorry about that. If you want to come on here and talk smack to me, that's fine. We can go ahead and do that. We'd love to have you on. Hey, anybody's open to come on with us. Like whoever like wants to crap on any any ex players or ex coaches or current players and current coaches. Anybody can come on. We heard Anthony Lynn, remember, came on and said after the season, I wanted to tell you all to go to hell. And we had Anthony on. Anthony was awesome. He's a great human being, great guy. Friend of the show. He's a compa. So yeah, definitely, Randy, if you want to come on, feel free. I mean, but yeah, I saw that tweet. I don't know, that one's a little weird to me, but the Chandler Jones one I thought was good, but I would have kept Ngakwe as well. I know you couldn't, and I know because of they wanted to move some stuff to get more guys.
Yeah,
all this cap stuff, but
a scheme fit too. You know,
but all three of those pass rushers would have been so good to see. Like I don't know, it would have been. Oh, by the way, did you see Casey Hayward? Congratulations to Casey Hayward. 2 years, $11 million with the Falcons. I actually thought Casey was going to go to Indy because Brandon Faison is now with Indy, and obviously Gus Bradley's over there.
Yeah, that's why they're all following. They love his system over there. And I think that's what it was, the whole trade. It was funny, too, because I'm going to call you out a little bit. Or maybe I'm make myself look good. I kind of forgot about Ngakwe. When the trade went down, I'm like, man, like Chandler Jones and Max Crosby now against Khalil Mack and Joey Bosa, these dynamic duels. And people are like, you forgot Ngakwe. And then in your tweet, you had it all down. Like you had the duels and then the triple for the Raiders and Ngakwe. Yeah. And then a minute later he gets traded, so you're like, oh, forget this tweet now. It doesn't count. So I ended up looking good for a change, you know. Like I knew it was coming.
Well, yeah, whatever. But no, you did not. But I was surprised that it was to the Colts because the Colts have been like the Colts have been very quiet at the start of free agency. Our good friend, our compa Pat McAfee on his show was getting so pissed. He's like, why do the Colts always wait until the second week and then they kind of go bargain hunting and seeing what they can grab?
Did he have his show already? Did he know about the Matt Ryan news?
Yeah, he did. Oh well, hold on. We're not getting there yet.
You act like people watch the show to learn about new news. Come on.
Yeah, they want to hear what's going on. They want to hear.
You're living in the newspaper age.
They want to know how Dan and Dago's doing. Obviously,
waits, okay.
Huh?
Nobody waits for news. It's all on your phone. You get it, Fernando. So
no, I know, but still, people care about. Well, some people care about our opinions.
I'm saying they already know what happened.
Other people just like to go and grab your stuff, Gilbert, and use it on their tweets. So I mean, that's another funny and write articles on that. So that's something else too that people like to wait on.
I've noticed.
I know. Are you going on any pro days? Speaking of that.
I don't think so. I never really do. You know what? The one thing I did like about the pandemic I shouldn't say that. Nothing good about it. They made the pro days virtual, so they gave you links to watch and talk to players. I think that's gone now. But yeah, I'm not going out there.
Friday, I'm actually going to the Notre Dame pro day.
Oh, look at you!
So I'm going to go see Kyle Hamilton. It'll be my first one.
Forget it. Forget you got a new job.
I know. Well, I know. Be honest. Did you when when you showed up last week and did interviews? Did you kind of look to your left and be like, "Oh no, like he's not here"?
I told the other Chargers beat reporters not to sit there. That's a Fernando Ramirez chair.
I appreciate that.
And then Daniel Popper was like, "He didn't die." I'm like, "Oh, well, it feels like that to me. He's gone. Okay, so don't sit there."
Oh, that means so much.
And you know what Popper does? Sits there. He doesn't care.
Yeah, because he's Daniel Popper. He's him and his minions. I don't know. I really.
But to his credit, then the following day for the next presser, he's like, "Okay, fine. I see you're serious."
I can see it too. He didn't die.
Yeah, exactly. So now it'd be funny too. Like the whole season, nobody sits in that middle chair.
I know.
I'm trying to make that happen for you, man. So
that'd be awesome.
Don't say I don't do anything nice for you.
You know, it's funny. A good friend of the show, also Brock Anderson, was like, "We should name the Good Guy Award after you." I was like, "Oh, that'd be awesome. Like that'd be really cool. Like I'd feel honored about that
award."
Huh?
The Fernando Ramirez Good Guy Award.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. I mean, especially because our good another compa Joey Bosa got it last season. I remember when Joey Reedy was telling him, he's like, "Really? I won that?" And then yeah, wow, okay, cool. I've never won a Good Guy Award, so that was pretty funny.
Actually, Joe did suggest, a good friend, Uncle Joe, to
Yeah.
do a cardboard cutout of you, Fernando, and put it in the chair, and then you holding a phone, so that way Joey Bosa and other players will feel like, oh, Fernando's still here, so let me give him some good stuff.
Honestly, if you guys would really do it, I might be coming down in May. I may do that. I'll get the cutout and everything, and you guys can just
Just
put it in the
plop
chair.
it down there in the middle. Your seat's taken.
There you go. And then you can still see my hair in the.
Yeah,
In
like we need to have Jim Hill asking the first question, and then
exactly.
Fernando holding the phone.
Exactly. There you go. I used to get in trouble when I first when they first moved to LA because I would always ask injury questions at the beginning of press conference. They're like, "Why can't you ask anything else?" I'm like, "Because everybody cares about injuries. Nobody all that fluff. Save it for later. Like, why do we have to do it now?" But I mean, obviously, just reminiscing on the good times, good memories, just fun stuff. But yeah, no,
Well,
some of these what?
I was gonna say, going off of that, maybe it's I should save it for later. But R.I.P. John Clayton. I've
Oh
been
yeah,
reading so many stories about him, and he was pretty much the guy who first started doing the insider stuff on injuries. So,
no, yeah, he
uh,
did.
good point there, Fernando. We got to ask about the importance that the fans want to know, and John Clayton was a
And
man.
Vegas wants to know.
And what?
And Vegas wants to
Oh
know.
yes, exactly. But I was reading like John was like at first against like fantasy football and all the injury stuff, and then like, okay, people actually care about this. It's my job to give the news to the people, and he was kind of the first one to do all that stuff. So, R.I.P. to John Clayton.
You know what's funny is that John actually had a an impact on me because another compa Eric Williams, Eric worked with him at ESPN, and I remember John came down for that. Oh my god, dude, it was 120 degrees on the field. It was Chargers Seahawks opening game. The Chargers were in all white. I remember we were all sweating. It was bad, but Eric introduced me to John, and Eric's like, I'll let you guys talk. And John asked me what my aspirations were. And I was like, you know what? Like, I want to be a journalist, but I just get so nervous. And then he's like, why? I'm like, I don't know. I don't, it's not that I'm surprised because I don't open up to people. Like, I know I'm like very talkative and everything, but I don't open up to people like that. And I remember I told John I'm scared. He's like, scared of what? I was like, I don't know. I just don't want to. I don't want to start this and then end up failing. He's like, but you do know that's how life is, right? And I was like, what do you mean? He's like you're gonna do stuff that you're gonna fail at, but that only helps you get better. And I was like, I guess I hadn't thought of that. He's like, how old are you? And I was like 22 at the time or 23. I'm like, I'm 20. I think I was 23. He's like, kid. He's like, you do see where you're at, right? You're in an NFL game, like a 23-year-old at an NFL game, like that does not happen. And I was like, oh wow. He's like, you should already count yourself as blessed. He's like, but if you keep on powering yourself, if you keep on doing this stuff, like you're gonna succeed. He's like, what kind of writing style do you have? I was like, well, I try and take some stuff that I see Eric do and this and that. He's like, don't do that. And I was like, why? He's like, you always want to have your own writing style. Like, why would I? He's like, what's your name again? And I was like, Fernando. He's like, why would I want to hire Fernando when if I wanted Eric Williams, I could just go get Eric Williams. He's like, you have to have your own writing style. You have to do your own thing, and you're gonna succeed. You'll be great at it. He's like, just keep on powering through, keep on doing your thing. And I was just like, oh wow, I was taken back. Like I was like, oh wow, okay, I had never thought of that. And then I saw him at the Super Bowl that year, in Arizona. And again, he remembered me, but he didn't remember my name, which was complete which was awesome. And he just every time I would see him, he would always say hi to me and everything. And he remembered me as Eric's buddy. But he was great. And really that was the thing that I always had. I always had that fear of what if I like just what if I'm going up the ladder and I just suddenly like free fall and fall on my face? And he said, you're going to have times like that. It's not always going to be perfect. It's not always going to be nice. And I mean, it's true. I've gone through some stuff that I'm like literally sitting in the dark thinking, freak, like, what is my next step? And I always go back to that conversation. And I always think, okay, keep on powering on. There's no reason to shut down. Like nothing else is going to shut down around me. It's just going to be me shutting down. So I definitely thank John Clayton for doing that for me. And honestly, he was a great guy and always took the time to talk to people and really was he wasn't one of those big headed guys. He was really great.
Yeah, and I know we're gonna have our good friend Paul Gutierrez on later on. He gave some great advice too. But going off of with John, you kind of hit it right there. Both, one, be yourself, because you look at a guy like John Clayton. He was I think that's what made him so like memorable. He was unique and different. and then work hard. Like that's like, all you know about John. He works. He like try to outwork hard, outwork everybody. So if you work hard and be yourself, that's like the best advice we keep hearing. And you're gonna hear Paul say more, drop more knowledge later on. But before we move on, real quick, my one story with John Clay, I didn't have the luxury of talking to him. That would have been nice like that. I guess I did talk to him, but not like that where he giving you advice. I went on a radio show where he was hosting on
Oh
Sirius.
wow.
I'm like, that's John Clayton asking me a question. So it was like maybe 4 years ago, and I was like, I just remember like, oh, that really happened. So
2018 year.
I think so. I think yeah, when the Chargers were good that 1 year.
Somebody will, he's gonna clap back for what you just said, but
Oh yeah, that one time they were good. But yeah, so yeah, RIP to John Clayton.
yeah, no, and that's the thing is that we always have to remember too, and that's the thing with Paul, like there weren't like, and that's the thing that we've talked about before. There weren't that many role models for us, so like you didn't know what way to kind of steer, like what kind of way to go when it came to using your voice and the way you wrote and all this stuff. So I mean, the other day, like I wrote in my first article for the South Bend Tribune, I literally wrote that the only way anybody could have made this, there was a pass in practice, and I was like, the only way you were going to do that is if you had the 90s Nike pumps, and you were going to be able to jump up in the air and make those. So like my editor was kind of like thrown off by it, but I was like, that's just how I write, dude. Like I'm going to throw some pop culture in there. He's like, oh wow, well this is unique, but I'm all for it. So I was like, all right, cool. Like at least you understand that I'm kind of like that. Like I'll do stuff like that. Like in articles I've mentioned WWE superstars. I've done some other stuff like that just because that's just the way I kind of am. I'm kind of like that. So that's why I'm really appreciative of John telling me to use my own unique way of painting the story.
Yeah, no, definitely. I feel like everybody has their own style, being unique, and like I feel like I'm giving away the secret. So we gotta wait for that Paul interview. But
Yeah.
if you're somebody who wants to do this business and kind of get a feel for what we do, from a person a little more experienced with a lot more experience than us, get watch for the Paul interview. But yes, definitely, RIP to John, and
I'm appreciative,
I'm
Gilbert,
jealous.
that I'm appreciative that you brought that up. That
No,
was a good.
no, I just wanted to say if he deserves it, and I'm jealous of the conversation you had with him.
Well, I mean, that's shout out to Eric again, because Eric's always looked out for me and everything, and for him to be able to give me those 5-10 minutes with John, like it was awesome. So it was right around the time that his commercial came out. So it was the
Yeah.
mom, I'm done with my segment. Like that was honestly awesome. And that's the thing is that I feel like that's what we've kind of done with this show, is that we've kind of brought out our personalities. We've shown like people could have read my stuff and been like, okay, he likes to throw in like references and stuff. He may be a little quirky. Like some people might have thought that you were a little bit more like laid back and you just do your work. But now people get to see our personalities on here and see, yeah, I'm loud. I talk a lot. I do my thing. But you also like, yeah, you're not like as loud as I am, but when you talk, like you say some stuff and it's good stuff. So I'm definitely, and you're showing more and more personality as we keep on going. So obviously that's fun to kind of get out there and do more of that stuff, because I'm sure people didn't know John, like people knew John, who knew John Clayton, knew that side of him, but nobody outside of the sphere, I'm sure, knew that John Clayton was like that.
Yeah, and then even even that commercial, yeah, that was the one. Like even when he was doing ESPN, he was so professional. The professor just dropping knowledge after knowledge. But then when that video was like, oh, that's the other side we didn't know about. I mean, the
Yeah.
commercial. And then you're not all the stories that I'm reading, the people that knew him from Seattle or ESPN. Mike Sando had a good story in the Athletic about him because he probably knew him, not the best, but one of the best, because he took over at the Tacoma. I'm butchering the name,
Yeah.
newspaper where maybe that's the one where Eric worked at too.
That's
I'm
where
not
Eric worked out
okay.
too.
That's crazy. That whole kind of the reporters that came out of there, John, Mike, and Eric. So shout out to Tacoma.
Yeah, no, and they produced a lot of good guys coming out of that newspaper. But all right, you kind of, and again, RIP to John Clayton, and we hope that his family is able to kind of look at some of this stuff and kind of during a hard time be able to see all the happiness that is that their father, son, whatever, like the way he was able to bring happiness to a lot of people. But all right, Gilbert, so I'm going to put you on the spot. I know it's way too early. We're in March. It is exactly March 21st. I got to ask you, man, what are your AFC West rankings as of right now? We did quarterbacks last week. I got to ask you, maybe we'll do defense next week. But today I want to ask you for your way too early AFC West rankings.
Honestly, I'm not really ready.
Don't care.
But I will. You asked me. I won't shy away from that. And
If this
people,
was Dan and Dago, how do you feel like he'd stack it up?
oh, obviously he's a homer. So Chargers number one. He never gives the Chiefs any credit. He doesn't care about what they've done. 4 straight AFC title games. Who cares? I'm trying to act like him right now. But I'm gonna start that way. I still think the Chiefs are the top dog until somebody beats them. 6-time division champions, 4 straight AFC title game appearances. The 2 Super Bowl appearances. But the one that Dago only cares about is the 1 Super Bowl. So yes, they haven't done multiple Super Bowls yet. But that's how stacked they are. All they needed was one Juju Smith-Schuster move, which is I don't think is that crazy, but like, they're really loaded. Like, you can't stop Tyreek, you can't stop Travis Kelce, and obviously Mahomes is doing what he does. And then like we've seen this over. I know people get caught up and I'm thinking about a story in the future, but people get caught up in the whole defense part. Like, oh, you have to have a good defense. Well, the Chiefs have shown that as long as you're average or like top 18, that's all you need. So I'm still going with the Chiefs, number one, and then the second one, I might get killed for it. But I feel like I'm always doubting this team, and I'm going to take them seriously. The Raiders, I'm going number two. Davante Adams just takes them to a whole another level. They beat the Chargers last year. So keep in mind, it's March. They beat the Chargers in Vegas, and they're a playoff team. Chandler Jones, Max Crosby, but they have a lot of holes, as you'll hear Paul say later on. And then the Chargers maybe like a close second, but they're third. I still got to see more stuff on the offensive line. I still got to see special teams. I still got to see that run defense get better. But great moves, J.C. Jackson and Khalil Mack. And then with the Broncos, I will go last. But Russell Wilson, Randy Gregory, DJ Jones, like this team is also very loaded. But like you mentioned, exactly. You mentioned many times, Fernando, they have no offensive line. That could be a problem with all the pass rushers I just mentioned. Like I don't know what they're doing too much. Running back, the receivers are kind of been shaky. It's a new quarterback. But again, wouldn't be surprised is there a way all 4 teams can make it to the playoffs? At least 3 out of 4 make it to the playoffs.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. I think three or four may 3 out of the 4 may make it. My list is a little bit different. I'm gonna go number one. I'm still gonna give it to the Chiefs, even though I don't know. I don't agree with it. I don't agree that Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce are unstoppable. I've kind of noticed that what teams did last year is they let Tyreek and they let Travis go crazy a little bit, but it was like who else is going to jump on and kind of do something, and that's where Mahomes kind of ran into some trouble against Cincinnati and against some of these other teams. Is that even against Buffalo at times they let Travis Kelce and Tyreek Hill go really crazy. That was the thing. They weren't able to limit the craziness that those guys were able to do. But at the same time, I kind of feel like this is the most vulnerable Chiefs team that we've seen so far. That is why I'm still waiting. I'm waiting for some big move from them. There's something coming from them. I just feel like they're looking at all the moves that everybody else made. They noticed that all 3 teams got better, but they haven't gotten better. I think they got worse in a sense. They lost one of their corners to the 49ers. It was their best corner. I just can't remember. Was it Snead or was it Chandrick West? It was one of those 2. I can't remember which one it was.
Oh, Darius Ward.
Ward. And Ward is. I mean, I know I didn't remember his name, but still, I know he's a good cornerback. He does good things for them. So I'm gonna go Chiefs number 1 still, just because it's Patrick Mahomes and nobody's been able to beat them. It's funny because the way everything went, Gilbert, the Chargers were dominated in the late 2000s. Okay, so the Raiders dominated in the early 2000s. They didn't win a Super Bowl. The Chargers dominated in the late 2000s, didn't win a Super Bowl. The Broncos dominated the early 2010s. They won a Super Bowl, and the Chiefs dominated the late 2010s and the early 2020s, and they won a Super Bowl. So can you imagine in the last 20 years, we should have gotten 1 Super Bowl champion out of each divisional each team in the division, but they just weren't able to churn them out because of I mean, maybe the tuck rule, and then the Troy Brown knocks the ball out of God, what was his name? I
Fernando,
can't remember the safety's name.
give us your ranking, man. Come on.
Oh, my bad. Sorry.
What
Okay,
about the
yeah.
history?
So
Jesus.
my bad. I'll go number one. I'll go number one Chiefs. I'll go two Chargers just because I'm gonna go with the quarterback always. Justin Herbert to me is the second best quarterback in this division. I think the moves that they've made with the pass rushers is great. I still think they need to fix their defensive line a little bit more. And I still think their secondary needs help. I don't know if Nas is the guy, but I would still throw a little more help Derwin James's way back there. But we'll see what they keep on doing. But JC Jackson's a good, solid addition to this team. Third, I'm gonna go Raiders. No, I gotta go Broncos. No, I gotta go Broncos. I was just thinking about it. The
We're gonna get a
Broncos
lot of heat now.
The Broncos secondary is stacked.
Yeah.
And I think Bradley Chubb is good. I think the addition of Russell Wilson's good. I just don't know about I'm just stuck between those two teams. The Raiders defense just isn't good to me. Their secondary, they have nobody in the secondary. They have nobody at safety that I'm kind of like, oh wow, like okay, be careful with that guy, like the Broncos do. But then I look at both offensive lines, and I think they're both bad offensive lines. And then I look at the defensive lines, and yeah, I think the Raiders have better. I think the Raiders have better players on the defensive line, but the linebackers both don't have good linebackers. I don't know. I'm gonna go Broncos just because Broncos at 3 and Raiders at 4. I know Davante Adams is there now, but can he really unlock what Kitty? The thing is, and this is what Dan and I were talking about. Rodgers had such a nice touch on the ball that I don't know if Derek has that. Like we've seen a Derek overthrows, he underthrows, he does some weird stuff. Yeah, he's gonna have Davante, but like, does he have that touch that Aaron Rodgers does? I don't know. So as of right now, I'm gonna put them fourth just because I don't know. I'm not a huge I'm not a huge Derek Carr guy.
But
So
you don't know what Derek Carr has that Aaron Rodgers doesn't or didn't have over there. That friendship, man, they're close buddies from college today. That chemistry is going to be
yeah, that's
instant,
cute.
Fernando. But I'll just put it this way: I think Davante Adams is not a receiver who needs a quarterback. I think he's the one that makes quarterbacks look better. That's how good he is. That's why I really like to trade. Davante Adams is going to take him to a whole nother level. And this offense was pretty good a year ago. And they didn't even have Darren Waller that much. So Darren Waller, Hunter Renfrow, and our good friend Adam is not a big fan of the running game, but I think Josh Jacobs was decent. The offensive line could be better, but I think it's not the worst. And I just keep going back to the defense. I think we're putting too much emphasis on the defense because, yeah, I know the Rams are pretty nice on defense a year ago and they won the Super Bowl, but man, you
But you have
saw
to get after the quarterback.
yeah, and that's what I'm saying. And so maybe that's where I'm missing it. But I just remember the Bills and the Chiefs, man, going at it toe to toe. Joe Burrow doing his thing with his offense. I feel like offense is the way to go. But yes, maybe Derek Carr is definitely not Russell Wilson.
You had 13 seconds to put the nail in the Chiefs' coffin, and you couldn't stop. And you decided to go like in some weird formation that I'm just like, what? Like even the players, I think, were baffled after the game. That's just you just need to have better coaching, and
But
I feel like, oh, you know what? We should do that. We should do that not next week, but the week after. Next week we'll do defenses. Week after we're gonna do AFC West head coach rankings. That'll be a
But let me just end with this because I know we have a lot of
yeah.
with Paul because he drops the knowledge. We need time with him. But I really like the Chargers move. I just felt like, damn, like this freaking division is so stacked that I could definitely be wrong all the way around. Maybe we're just giving the Chiefs too much credit because of what they've done in the past, which I think I am guilty of. But I think I really liked what the Chargers did with J.C. Jackson, Khalil Mack. Those are going to be game changers for Brandon Staley. But I got to see more from the interior defensive line. That poor running game from a year ago, poor defense. I don't feel that much better with Sebastian Joseph Day for them. Linebackers could be a problem, like you mentioned, safety. They've done some decent stuff on special teams. Like people are underrating the long snapper, and they got a new punter. That means they're taking it seriously. But special teams was still a problem. Got to find a right tackle. They got to find speed. But maybe it's just nitpicking Fernando with this loaded division. But I'm just I feel like last year I didn't give the Raiders enough credit. They did what they did in Vegas. They went to the playoffs. So I think I'm just going. I guess it's March, man. People are going to give me heat. I'm going off of last year a little bit too much.
You know what's funny, Gilbert? And real quick, just real quick, I feel like and the other thing that we have to take into account too, the Chargers are the only ones with a first round draft pick, except for the Chiefs at like 31 or 30 or whatever. But like the Chargers in the first round are the only ones that could have a first round talent on their team, and nobody like the Raiders don't get that opportunity. Well, as of right now, unless they trade up, and neither do the Broncos because they traded it away for one for Davante Adams and the other one for Russell Wilson. So that's going to be very interesting to see. But moving along now to the big
Totally forgot about this trade.
just real quick about this trade. Matt Ryan to the Colts. Gilbert, that's what I'm telling you. Like, we're going this way. Like everybody stacked on the AFC with quarterbacks. What did you think about this one?
It's not really a needle mover for me. It's like, can the Colts figure out a quarterback already? They keep doing like this patchwork, like with Phillip Rivers on the way out.
Andrew Luck messed them up, man.
I know. And then like Carson Wentz was kind of like a reach. Like, yeah, he was good with the Eagles that year that Frank Reich was there, but we saw what he's done the last couple of years. He's not going to be your guy. They missed there, and that sounded like a big mistake from the stuff I've been reading in Indy. Wolf. And then I go kind of the same Phillip Rivers route with Matt Ryan. Like, I don't know how much he has in the tank. I don't know. Maybe you become a wild card team, but you're not doing much. Like, they're really stuck in this middle area of
Yeah.
football, and you have such a loaded roster. Why don't you just go find a young quarterback? But also, I get that this draft maybe doesn't have that franchise quarterback.
Did you see what Darius Leonard tweeted out?
Yeah, he wants Julio Jones to come back.
Yeah, he's like, Julio, we got your guy. Why don't you guys finish what you started, but do it now in the dome up here? That'd be a really interesting signing if they got Julio Jones. But definitely, I think this is gonna get crazy. And Baker Mayfield is due to be traded as well. Like can you find him a home real quick or no?
I kind of want to see Seattle only
That's what I was
because
thinking.
the running game there, Chris
Jameis,
Carson.
Jameis just went to New
Yeah,
Orleans.
that's not happening for
So yeah.
him. And I
And
don't think.
Marcus Mariota, but watch out for Marcus Mariota. I know that Atlanta's not going to be that good or whatever, but watch Marcus Mariota with the Falcons. I really am interested to see kind of how he plays. But you're saying Seattle?
Yeah, and also I'll mention this argument I got into with your brother Dan and Diego. He said they did Baker Mayfield dirty. I don't think so because he hasn't proven himself. Like, it's all about results in this business, and he's kind of been up and down. And the only time they were really good when Baker was there was when the running game was dominant with Kareem Hunt and Bradley Chubb. Oh, no, Bradley Chubb. Nick Chubb. There
No,
we
Nick.
go. And then over there with Seattle, they love that kind of old school pound and ground with Rashad Penny, San Diego State, Chris Carson, and you got DK Metcalf. It's not a bad landing spot for him. But I'm wondering what about I ask you to end this. What about Jimmy G? Where's he going?
Jimmy G. Oh God, I don't even know where they're going to send him. Like, is he going to be on the bench next season too? Because you know what, Tom Brady screwed everything up coming back. That's where Jimmy G I think was supposed to go. And now that Tom Brady's back, I mean, I don't think the Giants are going to give up on anybody. So I don't know. Maybe, you know what? I mean, that's why you and I sometimes should stick more to the AFC West because we know what's going on over there. Somebody who knows a lot about what's going on with the Raiders is Paul Gutierrez. This was a long time coming, Gilbert. We needed to get Paul on the show, and this is a perfect opportunity to have one of the OG Compas jump on with us. So let's go right now to our interview with Paul. Now it is time to introduce our very special guest. He's an expert on all things Raiders, but this Barstow native also knows UNLV basketball. I'm, of course, talking about the great Paul Gutierrez, Raiders beat reporter for ESPN. Paul, how are you? And are the Raiders letting you enjoy this March Madness season?
Well, I mean, UNLV is not in it. So, I mean, I really haven't enjoyed March Madness since probably 1990 anyways. They did have that Sweet 16 run a couple of years back. But no, man, the Raiders and the NFL, there's no such thing as an NFL offseason anymore, guys. You know that. Number one, thanks for having me on here. It's, I've been watching what you guys have been doing from afar and really proud of you guys. And I hate to say that because that makes it sound like I'm on some kind of mountaintop like Yoda or something looking down. But no, man, it's good to see what you guys are doing and representing and keeping things real and keeping things for yourselves. That's really refreshing and heartening to see that kind of thing happen. But to answer your question, no, because I can't enjoy it. UNLV's not in it. The Raiders are too crazy. There's too much things going on. It never ends, right? It's all good.
Well, Paul, we're glad to have you on. You're definitely the OG reporter, and we really respect your work. But you mentioned Yoda. I caught your little reference yesterday with Baby Yoda, Grogu, throwing up on the GIF on Twitter. And people were asking on the comments, what are you talking about? And I think it's because Duke won. Am I correct?
Yeah. I like to just throw things out there, and it's obvious if it has it has absolutely positively nothing to do. Here's the thing: I literally was running on the treadmill at the gym watching that game, and as soon as the final whistle, I had it ready to go, and I just hit send. So there was no context, there was nothing. But anybody that was watching the timeline and watching the game would have understood exactly where it was coming from. Again, being a UNLV alum, and I make these comparisons all the time to Raider fans and UNLV fans. The Tuck Rule game to Raider Nation is the same as Greg Anthony fouling out against Duke in the 91 Final Four is to Gucci Rowe and UNLV fans. It was the beginning of a dynasty for Duke and the Patriots. It was the beginning of the end for a dynasty with UNLV and the beginning of the end for the Raiders, who seems like they're starting to come out of it a little bit now, 20 years later. But it's there's so many connections there. So when I do things like that, it's usually UNLV related with my alma mater or Barstow, my hometown, born and raised where my mom and dad and my brother still are. So yeah, it's not real hard to figure it out. And there was a meaning to it too, because it was blue that Grogu was throwing up. So it kind of made sense.
Well, Paul, I'm glad I got that resolved, because people are really confused about that. But Paul, we really know you obviously from being an expert at the Raiders, covering that. But I feel like when I talk to people about you, there's always something new I'm learning. But then I learned something new about you just a few minutes ago. So I was going to ask you about the big trade, but I'm going to wait for that because of the cool hat you're wearing, Barstow. You mentioned that you also played the trumpet, and you're going to UNLV on a scholarship for band. Is that correct?
Yeah, back in the day, man. Like I said, I know I'm just a little bit older. I just turned 52 last week, and I could finally grow some facial hair. So I'm going to do that as long as I can until it turns
belated.
white. So I appreciate that. Yeah, and I mean, there was some constants in my life growing up in Barstow. Number one was family, obviously, right? I grew up with my dad teaching martial arts, and he's still teaching to this day. He'll be 73 this summer, and he's still running the karate school in Barstow. So I grew up with that. I wrestled all 4 years in high school. I played football when I was a senior. I played baseball at Barstow College as well as in high school. And the other thing that was always a constant was band. Trumpet was kind of my vehicle at the time. So by the time I was a junior and a senior, I was the lead trumpet player playing solos for our field shows. And in Barstow, it's a small town. It's 20,000 people. Very, very diverse. A lot of a pretty big Latino population, Mexican American, and basically, if you keep digging there, that everybody in Barstow has a primo that's from Belen, New Mexico. So Belen and Barstow are like sister cities for some reason. A lot of people went over there. My grandparents came over to work at the Marine base after World War II. So there's all these connections there, but the constant was band for me. And yeah, I was good enough to be nominated for the McDonald's All-American band when I was a senior. Didn't really try out for it or make it, but it was good to do it. It allowed us, talking about a small town like Barstow, to go and travel. We were gone nonstop at competitions, whether they were in Las Vegas, LA, San Bernardino, Rialto. We played halftime show for a Los Angeles Lasers game at the LA Forum, which would get our friend Beto Duran very excited about the LA Lasers back in the day. And we also, this is before the Rams even moved to St. Louis. We did a pregame show at Anaheim Stadium, and I still got the VHS tape. I don't know if you guys know what VHS is, but my VCR still works. So I'll pop that bad boy in every now and again. So throughout all of that, I actually had a scholarship offer to go play my trumpet at UNLV straight out of high school. I didn't do it. I didn't know what I wanted to do with my life. I liked band. I didn't love it enough to know that, hey, if I go on this band scholarship, I'm just going to kind of do it and major in music. And I had a job waiting for me playing my trumpet in some like lounge lizard band at 18 years old. But I stayed home, figured out I wanted to do journalism. I took a journalism class at Barstow Community College. I played baseball there. And that journalism class, I was the only student for a semester. It was myself and Dr. Richard Reeve, the most right-wing conservative male in Barstow you could ever imagine. And he actually set me on my path because he's the one that introduced me to the California Chicano News Media Association and the scholarships that came from that. And that led to the National Association of Hispanic Journalists and the Freedom Forum and Sports Journalism Institute and everything that kind of came from there. So, there's all these paths that you come to these forks in the road and you look at it and you go, okay, well, which way am I going to go? and you just take the one that feels right. And for me at that point, I don't regret anything, but I do kind of wonder what would have happened if I had just gone to UNLV on my band scholarship and played my trumpet. Well, I probably wouldn't be talking to you, good gentlemen, right now. But and that's not a good thing. It's not a bad thing. It's a thing, right? So we just kind of figure it out. And long answer to your short question, but yeah, I played trumpet in high school.
you probably could have been in episode 1, 2, and 3 of Star Wars, doing the trumpet for Duel of Fates or one of those songs. So that would have been pretty cool. But what like, I have to ask real quick, what was it like being the only journalism student in it? Like, you're supposed, obviously, like, like you come in, there's a class clown, there's a this or there's that. You literally had to do all the roles.
I was all of them.
It was just you by yourself.
It was, well, again, it's like growing up in a town like Barstow, right? Everybody says, well, what did you do there? You're in the middle of nowhere. And I'm like, well, yeah, but I'm also halfway to everywhere. I'm 2 hours to Vegas. I'm 2 hours to LA. I'm an hour to Big Bear. I'm an hour and a half to Palm Springs. And being the only student in a journalism class, I learned a little bit of everything from how to write a decent lead to how to write a kicker to how to edit, how to print it out. This is back when we would print it out on wax paper and we'd have to physically lay it out and get the wax roller and roll out the newspaper. Now, we only did this once every 2 weeks and it was a 4-page newspaper. But I mean, the thing that sticks in my mind the most is I'm doing this in the first ever presidential election I could vote in, Michael Dukakis versus George Bush. That's how long ago this was, guys. And we put out a newspaper the day, on election day of 1988. So it was weird being the only student in there, but it was also so fulfilling because you got to learn and do so many things, which led to my correspondent job at the Barstow Desert Dispatch, which again was a small town newspaper for 20,000 people in Barstow. But if I'm not, putting together a school newspaper at Barstow College, and I'm not covering Barstow Little League on one day, guess what? I was going to LA Raider games. I was going to LA Ram games. I was going to Dodgers, Angels, LA Kings. Lakers came much later, but it gave me, again, just all those different experiences of being the only one. And it was a little bit later when kind of the lights turned on. It was like, well, not only am I the only one journalism student, but the diversity that I brought as well, being Latino, being a Chicano, young Chicano male at the time. You guys call me the OG. I don't know if that's kind of a nice term for viejo either. So, I'll take it.
Nah.
Fernando, I don't know about you, but Paul made me feel like I haven't done enough with my life. So
I was thinking
like,
the exact same.
I'm not all-American trumpet player, but
I was thinking,
I didn't know that was a thing.
I'm like, if I'm not doing this, what would be my other talent? And I'm starting to think. I'm like, I don't know what it would. Maybe comedian. I don't know. I don't know what else I would have done.
But Paul, let's shift over real quick because we could talk to you all day about getting to know you, Barstow, the way you kind of were raised. But real quick, the big trade, as you know, Davante Adams from the Packers to the Raiders. Can we kind of get the behind the scenes look? You told us that you were watching the Duke game on a treadmill. Where were you when the trade went down? And are you a little surprised about it, or not really, because of the friendship between Derek Carr and Davante Adams?
Yes and no to all of those things. I mean, it's funny because it's not surprising that it came down because of their relationship and because Davante Adams bought a house in Las Vegas a couple of weeks ago, and that was all out there. But it was surprising in that the Packers tagged him and that Aaron Rodgers just signed the massive deal. So you look at those, you try and put these things together, and you're like, okay, well, he's not going to do that unless he knows he's going to have his top target back, right? But then you look at the Raiders and it's like there's no tampering going on, right? No tampering at all. Just two friendly guys. They're college besties from Fresno State back in the day. But it all makes sense when you look at it. And to me, there's a big piece here that's missing, guys, from what national media is saying. Yes, he did choose, quote unquote, less money from the Raiders. Yes, he did choose Derek Carr over Aaron Rodgers, a Hall of Famer, a Super Bowl champion, an MVP. But Nevada doesn't have any state taxes either. So that's a huge piece here that Davante Adams doesn't have to pay any taxes on his money once he establishes that residency. And what did he do? Oh, yeah, like I just mentioned, he's got a house there too. So I'm not saying that anything's fake, but when you put all those pieces together, you're like, you sit back and when we're on a beat, right, you're so focused on the micro. You pull back and look at the macro, it's like, oh, it makes all the sense in the world. What was I thinking? So that's always the job on the beat, guys, right? You're always kind of like juggling things and trying to figure out, what does this mean? If this, then that, maybe. It's kind of like the finger man. It's Edward James Olmos in Stand and Deliver. You're just trying to figure out exactly what things mean. So yeah, I was surprised, but I wasn't once I pulled back and looked at the whole situation. Where was I when the trade went down? I was in Vegas. I covered the pressers that day. I walked out of the room about 4 o'clock or so. I said, okay, cool. I'm going to go to the gym. I'm going to go get my hair cut. I literally was sitting in a barber chair, and she had just put the scissors to my head for the first cut, and my phone just starts going nuts. And I just look at it, and I text my editor, this is a new one. I'm sitting in a barber chair. I can't go anywhere for about 25, 30 minutes. And they're like, oh, do what you got to do. So then I got all my stuff. I ran back up to the facility. I shot a video, wrote a couple stories, couple reaction pieces, and heard from Derek Carr's camp about something that they didn't really care that I wrote. But that's what comes, right? If you're not upsetting certain people and making other people happy, you're not really doing the job.
Yeah, no, you're 100% right. And obviously there's been some debate, and that's the thing that I've always liked about you, is that you keep it real, Paul, when it comes to this kind of stuff. And obviously there are some that have said that Raiders gave up too much for a wide receiver, then they gave him a big time contract. It seems like the Raiders did whatever it could to reunite Carr with Adams. But how did you evaluate the trade details? And do you think that there was a winner in this trade?
It's hard for me to actually say winner. And there was a couple years ago when at ESPN, after like drafts or after free agency, we had to either give thumbs up or thumbs down. And realistically, you're doing that. You're not doing it for clicks, but you're doing it because you have to. And because it's really I guess it's an educated guess. You can't really fairly judge draft classes until 2 or 3 years in, right? And I'm kind of the same way with acquisitions or free agent signings. I like it from this perspective because it shows that those first couple of days of free agency, they were sitting there twiddling their thumbs while the Chargers were going all in. Khalil Mack, a very familiar face to Raiders and the Raider fans. J.C. Jackson, who a lot of Raider fans would have loved to have here. Russell Wilson going to Denver. The Chiefs still being the Chiefs. And like, well, what is this new regime of the Patriots way? What are they going to do? Then all of a sudden it was boom, boom, boom. The best sack artist of the past decade is on the team all of a sudden. Now you got the best receiver. It shows me that they were going all in. And as somebody that covered this team as far back as when Randy Moss was here, this is still more exciting because Randy Moss never wanted to be a Raider. He gave up halfway through his first season there because he had to run on the dirt field in Oakland. This is the first, not only for Derek Carr, the first true number one in his prime receiver he's ever had. Because remember, the Antonio Brown thing blew this thing up and set the organization back a couple of years. This is the first true number one in his prime receiver that wants to be a Raider since Tim Brown in the mid to late 90s. That's how big this is for the Raiders. So I give it 2 thumbs up because, that's it.
It's funny, Paul, when I was in 2005 or 6, I can't remember, Kerry Collins was the quarterback, and I went to Qualcomm to watch Chargers and Raiders, and Kerry looks at Randy and he goes, "You're going to be open deep. I got you." Well, Randy kind of half-asses his route, and it's kind of jogging, and Kerry Collins overthrows him, and it gets picked off. Well, Randy comes off the field, throws his helmet on the ground, says, "What are you doing? You should have thrown it to me." He's like, "Dude, you didn't run." And you could tell Randy was just pissed, and he just sat on the bench, and he was just arms folded and everything. So now that you mentioned Randy, I'm like, oh my God, I remember watching him, and he threw a fit. And then you see him go to New England, he just completely kills it. And you're like, where was that gas when you were with the Raiders?
He wanted to be there, and I think he respected the thing, and a lot of it was he did ball out his first few games. I'll give him that. He did, and then he got hurt running a crossing pattern on the dirt infield of Oakland. I don't know if you guys remember that or not. And then he just said, "No, I'm done." And the thing that cracked me up about him was, I think I had half a conversation with Randy that one year in 2005. In the locker room, during the season when we still had access, you go in there and Randy was literally laying on the floor. You had to step over him to get over to the other side of the locker room. And he was just laying there taking a nap with a towel on his head. I'm like, this cat's different.
I was always wondering if him and T.O. would call each other and be like, "Yo, dude, what are you doing this week?" "Nah, I'm going to do this." "All right, dude, I'm going to do that." So, because every time it was either one of them were they were doing something, some antics were happening. And I honestly felt like they were together in on it because every week it was something with those two guys.
And it was interesting because when T.O. became available later in the early 2000s, I talked to some old school Raider guys, and they were like, give me T.O. over Randy 20 times because T.O. at least will run hard and he'll run across the middle. And all Randy would do is just run straight down the field when he felt like it. So that's what I was told.
Yeah. Well, Paul, I mean, and that leading to this, you had mentioned it before, but I had to talk a little Randy Moss with you. But do you feel like the acquisition of Adams and Chandler Jones and some of the other pieces that they've kind of gotten, do you feel like it's enough to compete with the Chiefs, the Broncos, and the Chargers? Do you feel like now this is a four horse division, I guess?
It better. I mean, they've gone all in. It would have been really easy for them to say, you know what, let's just trade Derek Carr to the Colts or the Browns. Let's just restart. I mean, we got a new regime here. Nobody's going to look at us sideways. Instead, they went all in. Knee-jerk reaction, yeah, they should be. And I wrote that this should kick them into Super Bowl contender status, not just in the division, but for the entire conference. It's a beast. Not only the division, but the entire conference. Except I say that in the middle of March, right? Because there's still so many holes. They still got to fix the offensive line because while the division has upgraded at quarterback, the pass rushing duos throughout, it's unbelievable what it is. I mean, it really is a murderer's row. So unless the Raiders can fix their offensive line, and entering today, they only had 2 linebackers on the roster. They've just signed 2 more guys today who I had to do a lot of research to figure out who they were exactly. But that's what happens in the second week of free agency. And they still need a safety. So there's a lot of holes at the Raiders. I think the Raiders may have improved themselves the most on paper, but I think they still have the most holes that they still need to address. Whereas like the Broncos probably made the biggest splash with Russell Wilson, but they're still a terrible team overall. You know what I mean? So, the Chargers, I've said this for a long time, but I've looked at the Chargers forever, and they've always, to me, beyond having the second best uniforms in the league when they wear those powder blues, they've always had, to me, the most talent. And it's just whether it's coaching or bad luck or Chargers going to Charger, it just never comes together. And then you look at the Chiefs, and it's like, well, what did they do? Oh, wow. They just added Juju Smith-Schuster. So they're ready to rock and roll. Yeah.
TikTok star Juju Smith-Schuster. I don't know if you saw, Jackson Mahomes already told him, we're going to link up, bro. So, hey, they're going to create some fire content. Can that go onto the field? Who knows?
Exactly. So this division's crazy. But, I do believe they can and they better compete, but they also have some holes to fill.
Paul, are you on TikTok yet or no?
My 14-year-old daughter and my 17-year-old son come and show me things all the time. So I'll just say no.
Well, on that note, Paul, because you do a lot, we'll get you on TikTok eventually. But I want to go back to get to know you a little better, and maybe for the people watching who want to be journalists or considering being a reporter, sports reporter. Like we mentioned, you are the OG. We look up to you. For a long time, I felt like it was just you being the only Latino NFL beat reporter. Maybe there's people out there that you know of. But even today, it's not that many. But right. I guess what's kind of your best advice for people trying to break into the NFL or whatever it is in sports that, for you, because I think you were, like you mentioned, you started, with Barstow, LA Times, Bay Area. So you've done a little bit of everything. What is kind of the best advice you give to the kids coming up nowadays?
I think it's just be true to yourself, man. I mean, don't just do things for clicks. Don't just do things for clout. I mean, you got to be true to yourself. And at the same time, those things will come to you. It's funny. Like I look at social media, and to me, it's one of two things, and it's the same on the same coin. It's the greatest invention in human history, and it's also probably the worst because of what it brings out in people. But it's a necessary evil. You've got to establish some sort of social media imprint, but always remember that when you're writing something, when you're tweeting something, when you're making a comment, it's forever, man. It's not just there. And I still do this, even though they're not around anymore. What would my abuelos and my abuelas think about if they read that I'm going after somebody? You got to be pro. And this was something that was taught to me by Leon Carter, Sandy Bailey, Leonard Hall with the Sports Journalism Institute way back in 1993, 94. Act pro, be treated like a pro. And that to me was always the biggest piece of advice. People are going to have preconceived notions. My first job out of college from UNLV was at Sports Illustrated. I was a fact checker in New York City. Well, guess what? I got there's preconceived notions of me already. I was the hot-blooded, fiery Latino from the West Coast, from the desert. And if I gave them even just a sample of that, well, then I was just confirming their suspicions, right? And being in New York, they didn't know what the hell I was anyway. Was I Puerto Rican? Was I Dominican? Was I Cuban? No. And the Spanish they were speaking there was way too fast for me. I'm like calling home and talking to my grandma, like, I wish I would have paid more attention when they came over and watched their stories, stuff like that. But that's my biggest advice. Just be true to yourself and be professional. And you act professional and you'll be treated professionally.
Yeah, no, and definitely social media, the two-headed monster. It could either work in your favor or it could hamper you. And that's the thing that I've always noticed is that you have to be, and especially us, we have to be very careful with anything that we post, anything that we do. So obviously you have to be a little bit more laid back, a little bit more on edge. Because I mean, yeah, people say stuff to me, people say stuff to Gilbert, but we never go at them because there's no point. Like, what's the point of going after people? It's just whatever's in a sense. Like, I just kind of ignore it because it's there's no point of it.
Yeah, well, then you're a bigger man than I am, because there was a time when I would engage with people going back and forth, and I think I probably blocked over 1,000 people over the time that Twitter's but a lot of that was because they would make it personal, or they'd call me names, or they'd be racist. I hold on to like the racist letters I got when I was writing columns at the Sacramento Bee. Mostly though when they went after my wife, who covers and works for the San Francisco Giants, Amy G. And they would come after me. I'm like, dude, she can handle her own business, really. So that was what that was a lot for. But you're right. I mean, as you get a little bit older, and you guys, like I said, you guys are already further ahead than I was at that stage. I was firing right back and fighting with people. Now it's like, no. And I remind myself, what would my grandparents think? And not only that, but at the age I'm at now, what will my children think? And what kind of example am I setting?
Yeah, no, exactly. I remember my grandpa, it was my uncle. He'd be like, no pongas tonterías que no quieres que la gente sepa. And I'm like, all right. Or like, don't do dumb stuff that you think people are going to see down the line or whatever. But Paul, before we let you go, I got to ask you, you've written 3 books.
Yeah.
And I got to ask you about the 3 of them. Obviously, Tommy Davis, Tales from the Dodgers Dugout, 100 Things Raiders fans should know and do before they die. And If the Walls Could Talk, Stories from the Raiders Sideline. Just what's been your favorite book that you've written, and kind of what's that been like, going from obviously journalist to then writing books? Like, what has that transition been like for you?
Yeah, I think, and it's funny, it'll sound trite, but it's like asking me which of your favorite books did you write is like asking which is your favorite kid, because each one is its own different entity. The first one I did with Tommy Davis, I had no idea what I was doing, but you know what? I talked to Sandy Koufax on the phone, and he told me, I'm not talking to you about myself. I'll talk to you about Tommy all day long. Yes, sir, Mr. Koufax. Yes, sir, Mr. Koufax. And then I got to sit at Dodger Stadium and listen to Tommy and Maury Wills bicker like an old married couple at each other, cursing each other out because they couldn't remember the same story. And then, because they're brothers. They literally grew up together and they love each other. So I got to do that. Writing the Raider 100 Things book. That was fun because if I had, just kind of taken the easy route, that would have been like writing 100 Wikipedia entries on different things that I chose. But I created a lot of professional friendships through that. And Tom Flores, happy birthday, Tom Flores. Today he's 85 years old.
Happy birthday.
He and Jim Plunkett, 2 of the main trailblazers for Latinos in the NFL. Great relationships with those guys writing that book. Cliff Branch, who's passed away, but now going into the Pro Football Hall of Fame. One of my biggest, not only supporters, but fans, but resources whenever I was doing things like that. And then the book I just wrote with Lincoln Kennedy. Lincoln Kennedy and I graduated high school the same year. And I look at him and I thank God that Barstow High did not play his high school, Morse High School in San Diego, and CIF or anything, because I'm like, I played defensive end. I was 165 back then, and he's as big as he was then. So that was rewarding as well, to work with somebody that I really respected and was with it. And I can't say exactly what it is now, but I got another one in the works too. So and goes back to the roots of working in LA, working at the LA Times. So it's been fun to be able to do it, and it's different. The writing for that is different. It's a lot more long form. And when you're writing in somebody else's voice, you got to be around them long enough to pick up their inflections, to pick up the things that they say, and make sure that, that they're okay with it too. So it's a challenge, but it is, it's kind of like, how many different babies do you have, or kids or whatever. And you kind of go from there. And it just reminds me of like my favorite story in my career, favorite moment. I'm working at the LA Times at the time, which is the paper I grew up reading, that and the San Bernardino Sun and the Barstow Desert Dispatch, but the LA Times was it. And I go to UNLV, my alma mater, to write a feature story on Fernando Valenzuela Jr. because he's playing first base for the Rebels. And I look up and there's Fernando sitting up in the stands. And I just walk up and I introduce myself to him. There's 2 times really where I've been intimidated because of like childhood heroes. One was Vince Ferragamo. That was my all-time favorite as a kid. And I remember introducing myself to him, going, "Oh, Mr. Ferragamo." And this is like 2 years ago. You were my favorite player when I was growing up. And he looks at me, "Oh, Paul, you're dating yourself, bro." It's like, okay, well, thank you. And then Fernando, and I walked up and Fernando's got kind of a funny personality. He could come off to a lot of people as being kind of smug, but it's not. He's really shy and he's funny as all get out. And I just walk up to him and we just start rapping and we're sitting there chopping it up. And I'm thinking, holy cow, I'm sitting here with my all-time favorite baseball player, watching the game that my favorite game, baseball, at my alma mater, writing for the newspaper that I grew up loving and always wanting to work for. I don't know where we go from there. And that was in 2003. So that to me was kind of that moment. I know you didn't ask about that, but that to me was awesome. Important to bring out when you ask, what's the advice? Be aware. Just be aware of all the surroundings.
Do you ever get crapped on for saying Mr.?
Mr.
I've gotten with Dean Spanos. I call him Mr. Spanos. He grabs me and literally I don't know, he just grabs me, pulls me, and he goes, "Dean, I've told you this for 10 years already." I'm like, "I'm so sorry." But he'll do mafia, pull me in, and he's "Dean, well, I've told you," and I'm like, "Oh, I'm so sorry."
Yeah, no, and it's funny that's one of my pet peeves too. And I don't know if you guys do it or not, but it's just for me to call coaches coach. They're not my coach. It's John Gruden, Josh McDaniels, Josh. And it's not a sign. It's not a sign of disrespect by any means. I'm just like, dude, I think it's more disrespectful if I call you coach. Like Tom Flores, he's Tom to me. The only one that I kind of bounced back and forth was Al Davis, because I did think he deserved Mr. Davis, and he insulted me and clowned me one day at a press conference, and then he winked at me later. I was like, okay, well, I'll wear that badge. It's good. Mark Davis is MD. He's just a guy, and he loves loves being that guy. So. It's strange. You want to show proper respect, obviously. But it's weird. It's weird because I'm 52. I feel like I'm in my 30s. But it's when I trip out and I step back and think, man, I've been writing articles since I was 18 in 1988.
It's not about the number, Paul. It's about how you feel.
Yeah. And that's the bottom line, right? And my wife and I, we tell each other, look, we still get to go to work. We don't have to go to work. And she's in Arizona right now for spring training, so it's all good.
Oh, wow.
You don't look 52, by the way, Paul.
You don't.
I try not, and I don't dye anything, man. This is all natural.
There you go.
Maybe some Twitter. Some
good hair.
You look better than Beto Duranda, so there you go. You're already winning.
Now Beto will never have me on his podcast.
I think I woke the sleeping dragon with that one, but
man, anytime I see Carson stuff, I always text him or shoot him pictures. Eldridge Hudson, Carson legend. He played for UNLV, and when they went to the Final Four in '87, and I sent him some stuff recently, and I'm friends with Eldridge L Hud on Facebook. He's like, "Oh my God, that's awesome!" So yeah, and I covered USC hoops when the Craven twins were there way back in the day, and they were both from Carson too. And I opened up the Home Depot Center. I don't even know what it's called now, but I covered the Galaxy when they still played at the Rose Bowl, and King Taco used to be the pregame meal. So
that's the dignified
Dignity Health Sports Park.
That thing. Okay.
All I know is I was there when the Galaxy played their first game, and then what concert did I see there? And I covered Oscar De La Hoya fights there. And gosh, I can't even think of the guy. It's a band. Bruce guy has the fiddle, plays the violin with him.
Yeah, no, I don't know.
Yeah, I know. I saw that concert there.
No, that's awesome. Thank you. Honestly, Paul, thank you so much for jumping on with the Compas. We truly appreciate it. You can get all of his great work at ESPN. Obviously, all the Raider stuff, that's all Paul. So definitely a great follow. Check out his books. Paul, again, thank you so much for jumping on with us.
Guys, my pleasure. And next time you take a team picture at Allegiant Stadium, I told Cassie she's in trouble. I unfollowed her on Twitter because of that stuff. Mi gente.
Definitely.
Noted.
Noted. We got it.
All right, guys. Thanks for having me.
What did I tell you? When has your boy Dan and Dago been wrong? All right. The Tebow thing, I get it. Let it go. Paul definitely brought the heat and dropped the knowledge. But I got to say, I feel anxious after hearing this AFC West analysis. It's only going to get decided in March, but this is the way I would have wanted it. If the Chargers win the division, there is no doubt. I don't want to hear none of this. Oh, well, Mahomes and the Chiefs this, or Derek Carr and the Raiders that, or Russell Wilson and the Broncos this. Nothing. Don't want to hear it. Because in the fall, this is what I am envisioning. We're a big WWE program here. And all I can see is Justin Herbert. What? Brandon Staley. What? Derwin James. What? Stepping into that Hell in the Cell cage, and like the Undertaker, closing it behind me, said, all right, you're going to go one-on-one with the great one for 60 minutes, and we're going to duke it out to see who's the best in this division. But for now, let's hear what my saintly brother has to say about his new job as the Notre Dame beat reporter. That Hilberto! Better not interrupt him. This ain't about you. So know your role and shut your damn mouth. But now, let's get to the best damn segment in the podcast universe. It's time for Una Mas.
Gilbert, good stuff from your buddy Dan and Dago. Always energetic, always hyped, always ready to go. I love you guys are just funny together. So anything new with you, Gilbert? Anything going on with you? Any vacations you got coming up?
I'm hoping maybe towards the end of this week, just to kind of get some downtime. But I was covering the Indy and the Combine, some Big West basketball. The free agency, Madness Frenzy. So, and then helping out with the Rams Super Bowl run. I felt like I had like no break after the Chargers. Like I'm like, oh yeah, no playoffs for the Chargers. I get to rest. Yeah, freaking right. So hopefully maybe this week I get to kind of unwind and maybe enjoy some college basketball. Like we were talking with Paul, that UNLV Duke rivalry. But I love college basketball. Hopefully maybe this weekend I get to enjoy that.
Let me know when your plane arrives at South Bend, and I'll go pick you up, bro. You tell me.
Maybe I would have gone if Notre Dame would have came through against Texas Tech. They failed me. I picked them. I actually picked them because of you're there. I'm like, oh, Fernando's there. Let me keep going Notre Dame.
You know what's funny is that going back to the brackets, and obviously the Compas are at the bottom of our of the ones that we did. We're at the bottom, but whatever.
You and your brother are really, really at the bottom, so that makes me feel better. But I am next to you guys.
Yeah. So, but I feel like yesterday there could have been, or over the weekend, there could have been so many upsets, but there was a lot of bad mismanagement at the end of the games where like TCU should have beaten Arizona on Sunday night. A lot of these guys should have been upset, but they just couldn't because of obviously they just couldn't handle it at the end. But yeah, it was pretty interesting. But something new with me is I just started I had my first week on the job. So pretty interesting. So over here, Gilbert, you I don't think you survive out here. I woke up at about 6 a.m. and I look out and I'm like, am I sure it's 6 a.m.? Like I look out, pitch black, like the moon is still up at the top. It's not near the hood of your car. No, it's still at the top. So I'm like, okay. I'm like, all right. So I get dressed and everything, well, take a shower and everything, get ready to go, and I leave. And I get in my car, I go get Starbucks because I was like, okay, I'm gonna need a pick me up. So I go and I get to the facility, 7 a.m., still pitch black. I'm like, there's no way. I'm like, I walk into the facility, sit down, get my pen paper out, get my laptop out, still pitch black. Well, when the players walked in, that's when the sun started coming up a little bit. But man, you could see the offensive line was sent outside to practice. Like freaking their breath, you could see their breath out and everything. So it's pretty interesting. I mean, everybody has a dome, I guess, out on the East Coast because of the weather and everything. They have domes, and this one's really nice. I mean, the media has really good seats and everything to watch. I was like, damn, this is a lot of fun. Like this is pretty cool. So first week on the job, got a couple of stories in. Have one coming out this week about the quarterback competition. So my my co-writer and I, he did one on the other guy that is trying to get the Notre Dame starting quarterback position, and I did the other guy. So we both wrote a piece each about how we think, not how we think, but how each guy is prepared for this opportunity. So that should be coming out in the next few days. So it's pretty cool. I got some other stuff in the works, but I've only been here a week, and I already get to say I have some stuff in the works. So that's pretty cool. But definitely it's been an interesting week. Pro Day is happening this Friday, so I'll be out there covering Kyle Hamilton. He's supposed to be a top 10, top 5 pick, depending on what mock draft you're looking at. Now, if he fell all the way down to the Chargers for Derwin, like Derwin did, that'd be one of the best tandems at safety in the NFL. Like I've seen the only reason why I say that is because I've seen a lot of comparisons of Derwin because of his length and everything, but he's not built like a linebacker the way Derwin is, but he's still pretty big. But yeah, no. So that's definitely been my week. My first week at work, so it was pretty. And then obviously some of the guys on the beat have introduced themselves to me, and it's been really interesting.
Just maybe an inside joke. Hopefully, Kyle Hamilton doesn't leave you hanging this time.
Oh yeah. That was pretty bad. I waited 2.5 hours at the combine for him, and just stood there. And when honestly, when stuff like that happens, you always look towards your compa. And I was like, "Hey, Gilbert," and I look, and Gilbert was like in the cartoons is all you could see is the smoke from him dipping out of there. I was like, "Oh wow, okay."
I'm like,
so he left.
Can you remind me what pick the Chargers have again? 17. Oh, he ain't gonna be there. I'm out of here.
Exactly, and I think that was the last day, right? That was our last day.
I did wait for like 40 minutes.
No,
like,
you did. No,
Fernando,
you did.
I'm hungry. Like, I want to help you out, and I guess right. He never showed up, and I went to get White Castle.
Yeah, exactly. So I was like, okay. But yeah, no, definitely.
Well, let me ask you real quick before we head out here. How's the media, the beats there? Is there some good characters there so far?
I mean, if you're asking me, Chief, if there's a certain media member like that, no. So I think everybody it feels like everybody grew up here. I feel like I'm the only outlier. Like everybody else seems like they grew up here. They know the team. They know everything. They know kind of how everything runs. And I kind of feel like I'm the outlier that is from somewhere else who's coming here to cover the team. But I mean, they're cool. I mean, some people have introduced themselves to me. Other people haven't. So I mean, I'm going to be courteous to whoever says hi or whatever. But it's been pretty interesting to kind of see the way everybody works out here. And if you're asking me if I'm the only one like me, yes, I am.
Okay.
So that's another interesting aspect of the whole thing too. But
have you found any good Mexican food out there?
I have not even tried. I'm scared to do it.
What have you been eating then?
Huh? I've just been cooking at home.
Might be the best way to go.
I mean, there's a thing called quado something.
Yeah,
and it's like they're calling it like it's like Chipotle.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
But I haven't tried it because I'm a little nervous. Like there's a Chipotle across the street, and I've tried that once. By the way, their grilled chicken or their new pollo asado, don't. I asked the lady, I'm like, because like the guy in front of me, he's like, "Oh, I'm gonna get some," and I was like, "Oh, did you like have you tried it?" He's like, "No, partner, haven't tried it." He's like, "It'd be pretty good though," and I was like, "Oh, okay." And I asked her, I was like, "Can I try it?" She's like, "Yeah," and I put it in my I grabbed the little cup and I kind of like shotgunned it, and I was like, "I'll stick to steak." She's like, "You didn't like it?" I was like, "It's just a different taste." She's like, "Well, what didn't you like about it?" I'm like, I was like, "No, I'll just take the steak. Like it's good." And then she's like, okay. So yeah, the pollo asado I wasn't a fan of. Maybe you'll like it, but I just wasn't. But yeah, there's a Chipotle right here. So that's the only like if you want to say Mexican food, I guess that's the only thing I've had, but I don't count that as Mexican food. But
I don't know, man. Doesn't sound like it's a place you'll find me in. I need some Mexican food. I need some good weather.
If I'm here, what else do you need?
You gonna be cooking every day?
I've been cooking for Dan and Dago and I.
What a bum. Tell him to go home already.
He leaves on Wednesday. I'm going to be so sad.
Good.
You should come and visit me.
No, I got things to do, buddy.
No, you don't. You have vacation.
Yes. Like things by myself. Yeah.
That's vacation. You can come out here. Then we can go to Chicago. Have you ever been to Chicago?
Yes, I have. See, I don't have to go.
Damn. Have you been to Ohio? Hey, we can go ride the world's tallest roller coaster.
I don't know. We'll see.
All right. Well, definitely, Gilbert, another great show. We had Paul on. I think we're gonna snowball again, Gilbert. I mean, we've been kind of quiet lately, but we're gonna have some more guests coming up. A lot of fun times coming up, Gilbert. WrestleMania. I'll have a preview of WrestleMania coming up. It's a lot of matches. I'm not gonna give you all the matches. I'm gonna try and give you a quick probably my top 5 matches that I can't wait to see. Obviously, your tribal chief will be there, Gilbert. That's gonna be one of the ones that. Have you acknowledged your tribal chief?
I'll leave my review for next week, but I'm gonna get some new faces in the WWE. Jeez.
Oh, there's one face that I've been hearing.
Okay.
He was with AEW. Now he's supposedly jumping back to WWE. I wish we could have asked Tony Khan about that. That would have been so much fun. But I don't think we would have been as friendly if I would have asked him about Cody Rhodes. So Cody Rhodes potentially could be headed to WWE, could be headed at WrestleMania, could appear. Gilbert, the Rattlesnake is coming out of retirement.
I saw that. Okay, we have some stuff to talk about then. We
do.
do.
Yeah, next week. Next week. Yeah, next week. So it'll be a lot of fun. I'm up to something, Gilbert. I'm trying to do something. I hope it comes to fruition, but if it doesn't, just know that I am trying. I am trying to come up with something fun. But we got WrestleMania. We got the draft coming up, Gilbert, in a couple of weeks too. So we need to get geared up for that. See what the Compas can come together, who we can have on, who knows some of these players, talk about some of these guys. And then obviously we can give our expertise because we were there at the combine and we talked to some of these players. You wrote some really good stories on some of these players, especially some of the local kids coming out. So definitely that's going to be exciting. And who knows what else the Compas have coming up, Gilbert. I mean, obviously in early May, Canelo fights. So there you go. There's a lot of things to be excited for. We got you guys all covered. Thank you guys again so much. Gilbert, anything else before we head out of here?
No, that's it. Thank you for Paul coming on. RIP John Clayton again. And I'm glad you're doing well in South Bend.
Thank you so much, Gilbert. I appreciate that. Thank you again for that kind and warm thing that you said at the beginning where you saved my chair and everything. That means a lot to me. That's and if you were being sarcastic, then I don't care. I still take it with all the love and the care. So, but definitely appreciate it. But Gilbert, for the time being, sabes que vámonos.
Ya nos vamos, pues vámonos.